Today's podcast is brought to you by Jerry Robinson's PACE Portfolio. Learn how to shield your investments from economic uncertainty with this complete do-it-yourself portfolio package. Learn more at paceportfolio.com. That's PACE portfolio.com.
Friends, welcome to the only radio broadcast dedicated to your personal, spiritual, and financial freedom. This is Follow the Money Daily, a daily podcast right here on ftmdaily.com, right here every single day of the week. My name is Jerry Robinson. I'm your host, your guide, leading you on an excursion to truth. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely wife, co-host, and national director of our Christian Financial Advisor Network. It is Jennifer Robinson. Jennifer, good morning.
Good morning, Jerry. Well, we have a great show lined up as promised. Earlier in the week, we are going to talk about the mainstream media and why we are always questioning what they are saying. And Jerry has so much to say on that topic here in just a moment. We also have Tom Cloud, our precious metals advisor, who has been in the business for going on close to 40 years now. He's going to be on the show today, and he's going to be talking about gold, silver, what's happening in those markets, and a really great deal he has on some silver products right now if you're looking to add to your silver position.
All right. Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate the update. Yeah, always looking forward to Tom coming on. He always provides good information, and we'll look forward to that here in a few minutes. But first, as we have been talking to you about all week long, the corporate-controlled mainstream media, the most powerful special interest in Washington today, is the media. They serve as the gatekeepers to the all-important American public. Every politician wants and needs access to the mainstream media's audience and their sphere of influence. They control radio, they control TV, they control cable, they control the newspapers, the magazines, even the internet. There is, of course, an alternative news strand that is running through the media, but it is still so much smaller and dwarfed by the mainstream media. The media concentration that we have seen over the last few decades has been astonishing. 30 years ago, back in early 1980s, 90% of the media that most Americans consumed on a daily basis was controlled by 50 corporations. Now, that's pretty small when you think about it. But today, in our age of corporate consolidation, mergers, acquisitions, the number of corporate entities that control the national media has dwindled to just 6. So let's just go through and name these corporations that have such a stranglehold on the U.S. media. Number one, you have Comcast. Everybody's heard of Comcast, especially if you have cable. They're one of the major cable providers. They own things like NBC and Universal Pictures. Then you have News Corp. News Corp, of course, owns Fox News and the Wall Street Journal, many of the most influential newspapers on different continents. And then you have number 3, Disney. Disney, of course, owns ABC, ESPN, Pixar, many of the brands that cater to children and to families. Number 4 is Viacom. They own things like MTV, Paramount Pictures. Of course, much of this stuff is constantly in flux because of all the different mergers and acquisitions. Number 5 is Time Warner. Time Warner Cable. They own things like CNN and HBO and Time. And then finally, CBS, owning things like Showtime and NFL.com and many other properties online and offline. So you have all of this media concentration within just a handful of media properties. Today, we're finding out that 89% of the millennial generation do not trust the mainstream media. How about you? Do you trust the media? Whenever you see stories on the evening news or whenever you turn on the television and you see what they're saying, and they all seem to be saying the same thing. There seems to be a problem, I think, also with the whole concept of corporations controlling the flow of information. Doesn't that seem a bit counterintuitive? Whenever our founders envisioned a free press, I don't think that they had this in mind. A free press would seem as if it would be unencumbered from the corporate mentality of having to drive profits. Profit maximization is the ultimate goal of every corporation. And if that idea of maximizing profits becomes entangled with telling the truth. Which one of those two things do you think will be the casualty? Do you think that the mainstream media will drop their profit maximization strategy to make sure that they elevate the truth for you because they want your best interests at heart? Give you a case in point, as if we don't already have plenty. Take, for example, the Russian perspective of the plane crash that occurred over the Russian-Ukrainian border. We've been talking about this week, certainly pointing out the fact that the U.S. has been grinding its axe with Mr. Putin and with Russia. But in a televised defense ministry presentation, Russian officials presented evidence that was at odds with the accusations being slung at them from the Ukraine and the West. Wall Street Journal reported this week about a news conference broadcast from Moscow. Russian Air Force Chief Lieutenant General Igor Makushev, during a press conference, showed evidence from a Russian radar that 4 commercial airplanes were in the area shortly before the crash, as well as a military-style fighter jet. At the same time, Russian officials stated that the U.S. moved a satellite right above MH17 right before it comes crashing to the ground. Now, this is the evidence that Russia is putting out. This is the evidence that the Russian people are hearing through their media. What was so stunning about this presentation in Russia was that it actually included satellite imagery showing Ukraine moving missile systems into the area just before the incident. In other words, they were presenting proof of their ideas. Meanwhile, U.S. officials have been jacking their jaws about how Russia was to blame, Putin was involved, and have yet to provide any kind of meaningful evidence. Now, a question naturally arises here, I think, and that is, why do Republicans trust Obama on Mr. Putin? Why do they trust Mr. Obama to tell them the truth about Russia? After all, we know that we can't trust Mr. Obama on immigration. We can't trust Mr. Obama on Benghazi. We can't trust Obama on the Fast and Furious issue and gun control. We certainly can't trust Mr. Obama on the IRS. We can't trust him on the VA. You can't trust him if you want to keep your health care plan. You can't trust him on the economy. You can't trust him on Israel. You can't trust his claim to be a Christian because everybody knows he's a Muslim. And you can't trust that he's actually an American citizen. But friends, you can trust Mr. Obama when it comes to Russia. Everyone knows that Mr. Obama's assessment of Mr. Putin and his intentions are perfectly pure. How is it that so many Republicans who distrust Mr. Obama are so quick to believe him on what's occurring in Russia without any evidence? What happened to the questioning spirit of the Tea Party? What happened to the questioning spirit of the Republican Party? Where is it? Well, the same thing happened after the massacre in Syria. Many of the warmongers were chomping at the bit to go in and do some damage to Bashar al-Assad. But no doubt, even many of the anti-war types were chomping at the bit to lay waste to Bashar al-Assad in Syria. This, my friends, is the power of the mainstream media. If you want a war, you just need the right incident. The 1915 sinking of the Lusitania, the British ship that killed almost 1,200 people, led to the U.S. involvement in World War I. The high death toll shocked the world, and the loss of American lives swayed public opinion in the United States in favor of joining World War I. Then you had the tragic pictures of the Pearl Harbor incident that dragged America into World War II. And then you had the staged Gulf of Tonkin incident that led to America's deepening involvement in Vietnam. Of course, we had the tragic events of 9/11 that dragged America into this now global war on terror. And my point is without the corporate-controlled mainstream media doing your bidding, reaching into the minds and hearts of American people, the game of empire and the build-up to war becomes much more difficult. But forget war, and forget empire, and forget Russia, and forget Syria. Forget all that for a moment. Think about the power that the mainstream media has over the election of presidents. Very powerful. In fact, so powerful, I got to play you a clip of Glenn Beck talking about Ted Cruz, who he obviously believes would be a good 2016 presidential candidate. But listen to what he says about Fox News. Remember, the man used to work there. Listen to what he says about Fox News and their thoughts upon the presidency. Roll the tape.
Where's Breitbart on that story? Where is Fox News on that story? You know that Fox News, I can't speak for Breitbart, but I can tell you this, Fox News isn't covering that because Fox News, that's not their pick for president of the United States. Well, it would be a Romney guy or somebody like that. So
okay, so Twilight Zone here. Wait, what does Fox News always say?
Fox News Channel. We report, you decide.
That's right. We report, you decide. That's what Fox News always says. But here you have Glenn Beck saying that Ted Cruz is not Fox News's guy. Now, what does that even mean? Does Fox News have a guy that they want to be president? And how does that jive with the whole we report, you decide whole concept? Well, I think most people within our audience know, and especially from the emails we receive from you, you know that this is all a big joke. You know it. There's a few of you out there who still believe the mainstream media and their lies. But many of you know that this is a joke. But by the way, speaking of this, you have to come to your senses here with Glenn Beck. You either have to say this guy is a crank or this guy is really telling the truth. If you believe he's a crank, then your viewpoint is validated with this clip because you'd say, well, surely Fox News doesn't have a guy that they would want to be president. Surely they're fair and balanced, and surely they report and we decide that. That's normally what people would say. So he's just a crank underneath that scenario. But if he's telling the truth because he used to work there and he knows that Fox News has a guy every single election cycle, then Glenn Beck just exposed something very important about the mainstream press. And many people say, well, Fox News is not part of the mainstream press. Come on. It's all part of the same thing. They're all owned by the same people. They all controlled by the same powerful elite. Doesn't matter if they slap a Fox News logo on it or a CNN logo on it. They give you that illusion of choice. I get to choose. I get to click my buttons on my remote and I get to choose. Oh, you do. One thing we didn't get to choose back in 2012 was whether to hear Ron Paul talk about the Federal Reserve and the national debt and the ongoing warfare state here in America because the mainstream media drowned him out. Do you think that the corporate-controlled mainstream media wants somebody like Ron Paul getting on television and trashing the Federal Reserve and the banksters? They're not going to give him time for that. He was the only one talking about the Fed. We went back and did a research on all of the different presidential debates that occurred back in 2012, found the number of times that the Federal Reserve, the actual phrase, was brought up in the presidential debates. 0. How is that even possible? The Fed has pumped in more money than at any time in history combined. And yet it's not a debate for the president to talk about. Now, by the way, play that last part of Beck's clip about who he thought Fox News' guy would be. Roll that tape.
That's not their pick for president of the United States. Well, it would be a Romney guy or somebody like that. So,
okay, admittedly, I'm not a Glenn Beck follower. I don't really know what he's saying, but I do remember during the 2012 presidential debates and the election, Glenn Beck was very much promoting Mitt Romney, going as far to compare him to George Washington and even making many religious claims about how Romney was so important for the White House. And so now to hear Beck say that Mitt Romney would be a Fox News kind of guy, an establishment pick, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, apparently, since then, Beck has tried to distance himself from Mitt Romney. Clearly, from that clip, that's certainly what it sounds like. But regardless, Beck makes a good point in the fact that here you have the mainstream media, and they're going to anoint, just like they do in every election cycle, the mainstream media is going to anoint its choice for president. And there are certainly guys that they are not going to give any kind of audience to. For example, Ron Paul. Remember, Ron Paul was completely shoved aside in the 2012 presidential election. We did a number of stories about that, videos and radio shows about how Ron Paul was being castigated by the mainstream press because what was he talking about? He was talking about the Federal Reserve. These corporate-controlled mainstream media outlets are not going to give a platform to somebody like Ron Paul to trash the Federal Reserve. They're not going to let him trash the banksters and tell the truth about what's really happening, or even the national debt. So the mainstream media had made up its mind pretty early on that it was not going to be giving any kind of microphone to people like Ron Paul. And this 2016 presidential election is not going to be any different because remember, the mainstream media controls this. You're going to be given the illusion of choice. There's no doubt about it. You're going to be told that you have a choice. You're going to have Pepsi and Coke. You get to choose. Which one do you like better? Do you like blue or do you like red better? So they're going to give you two choices. But remember, it's only an illusion. The choice that you'll be given is only an illusion. Because in a country that gets 90% of its news from just a handful of powerful, well-connected elites that control the media, there is only one fact that cannot be argued. And that is that they report and they decide.
This is Tom Cloud with this week's Precious Metals Market Update. I want to go over a couple things, and then I want to jump into some actually products and talk a little bit. But primarily for y'all out there that are technical traders, we're still showing our 100-day moving average support, staying above 1302.50 here on Wednesday, and then we've got some resistance up at 1325, and then again at 1340. So we're kind of bound right now, but that's not bad for this time of year. So it really doesn't bother me. We're just kind of sitting there in that 1310 to 1325 range, and I expect that might happen for another week or two on gold. And in silver, we're kind of been bound between that 2050 and 2150, and we still think it'll break out above 2150 before it goes back down to $20.50 per ounce on the spot price. So every day that goes by, nobody likes to wish their life away, but as a dealer for 38 years, things really start getting exciting in August. So we're not unhappy to see July coming to an end here in a few days, but certainly we'll continue to watch that and keep you abreast. I know I sound like a broken record, but the leading stories coming out of Reuters today is once again about the bullishness of palladium. They're now predicting in the next 2 months it'll hit an all-time highest price it's ever been. And we continue to have questions about the South African and the Russian output, which really is causing problems as the car demand is continuing to increase both in China and the U.S. And it's hard to believe to see reasonably strong car sales, but certainly that puts pressure on palladium. That's a very narrowly traded metal that is dependent on catalytic converter to continue to have big demand worldwide. That is the primary use of palladium. So once again, as I said last week, everybody is on the palladium wagon, and we just continue each week to get new clients buying an ounce or two just to get in there. So we urge you, if you can't buy a lot, a 1 ounce COMEX bars in the low 900s with the low premium over spot. That's spots around $870, $875 an ounce. And remember, I've been talking about palladium since it's 180, so some of you nearly have a 5-time gain on it since we moved into it the first time, and then again in 2011. In those 3 years, we're about 30% up. So both buy signals have been extremely timely for our clients. So next thing we'll do is not spend a lot of time, but I want to jump right into some of the market developments on the product side. Number one, the Royal Canadian Mint has just started. We started on Monday selling the new Royal Canadian Mint 10-ounce silver COMEX approved bars. And this is going to fill a gap because there haven't been any 10-ounce bars out there since Johnson, Matthey, and Engelhard made them years ago. So this fits a nice bill. They're going to be a little more expensive per ounce than 1 ounce rounds, about a quarter of an ounce. But what you gain by having a COMEX product and a Royal Canadian Mint product is always that on the back end you're going to get a lot higher premium. So we'll be sending more of that out soon about the 10-ounce silver bars and Royal Canadian Mint. We continue to use their 1 ounce gold bars as our major gold product because the serial numbers, and these bars will also have serial numbers on them where you can know what you got and keep a record of your serial numbers. I want to talk a little bit today about the gold market, and we're seeing once again a shortage of the European coin started. We put our list out on Monday for the week, and already we're having trouble supplying the French 20 franc at the 5.8% premium. We're already being asked a little over 6%. So we're going to keep that going this week, but it might be the only week. So if you're interested in fifth ounce or 0.1867 ounce gold coins that are very durable, minted in France prior to 1948, this would be a good week to pick up a few of those. And we only have a 5 coin minimum on those for free shipping and insurance. The last thing I want to talk about is just to give you all a head start. Over the last 15 years, I've been fortunate to be one to handle some of the rare Torah scrolls. The Hebrew Torah scrolls have been passed down for thousands of years. When you go all the way back to the Bible, when God had Moses write the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and of course we call it Pentateuch in Hebrew, and these scrolls have been incredible for our clients. We probably have only had about 15 clients that have ever been able to get one, but they give you so many options. First, you're looking at something that the demand came straight from God to Moses, and they've maintained. Even a Sefer Torah scroll today is still lined up and written in columns on unblemished skin of different animals. Even the scrolls are being made today in the 2000s. But we have some scrolls that go back 200, 300 years that are now appraising in the $45,000 to $60,000 retail, and you can buy them for about a third of the retail value. Not only do you have a chance for good investment, not only do you have a chance that this is going to be a level investment that many people are going to move into when we have inflation as another inflation hedge instead of just gold, because these have very heavy laws about exporting them. So there's not a lot of them get out of Israel. But what a lot of our clients have done is held them 1 year. You can then donate them. We use the top appraiser that the IRS uses for valuation. So just to give you an example, we have one that's appraising for $45,000. You can buy it for $15,000, hold it 1 year and 1 day, donate it to a church, synagogue, or a 501c3, and take the $45,000 deduction. So for anybody in 2016 expecting to have capital gains in metals or stocks or real estate or commodities or any other investment, you can wipe out $45,000 in gain, and you'll make a profit just by buying the scroll, holding it 1 year. So you're hearing this first. I promised Jerry I would let his listeners hear this first before we put it out to our mailing list next week. So if any of you hear this and have interest, give me a call. And we have another one on the way. It's going to be a little more expensive and appraised for a little more. But either way, it's an excellent opportunity to participate in something extremely, extremely rare and historical that goes all the way back to our roots of civilization with the first 5 books of the Bible. If any of you need to talk to me about the metals, and especially our silver, junk silver special that was sent out yesterday, it's the lowest price we've ever had. If you looked on our website today and you see junk silver $2.35 over spot, we put a super buy signal out yesterday at $1.40, and you consider we're paying the postage and the insurance, and you're getting that for $1.40 an ounce over spot, dimes or quarters, and for 50 cents more an ounce, we actually have $half in stock too. So you really, really want to look. If you didn't get the email on our mailing list, you need to do two things. You need to call us at 800-247-2812 and tell us you'd like for us to send you the email. And number two, you need to sign up to be on our red alert list. We keep that completely confidential, and if you don't like it down the road, you can always unsubscribe. But you can sign up by going to FTM Daily /gold or FTM Daily, hit the Precious Metals button, and you can sign up for our newsletter. And once again, it's completely confidential. And if any of you have any questions and want to talk to me or Dan or Kathleen here in the office directly, you can reach us at 800-247-2812. That's 800-247-2812. With this week's Precious Metals Market Update, this is Tom Cloud signing out.
All right, well, that was Tom Cloud, our veteran precious metals advisor. If you've been listening to our program for any period of time, you've heard him almost on every single show. Now he's on once a week, and we hope you enjoy his updates on precious metals. If you'd like to listen to his segment by itself, you can always go to ftmdaily.com/gold. And that gives you the segment about precious metals all by itself, and you can listen to that there for all the precious metals investors out there. All right, Jerry, well, the S&P 500 today is at 1985. Had a big rise yesterday, up a little bit this morning. Gold is at $13.05, and silver is at $20.99. Those two metals staying just about the same as yesterday's prices.
Yeah, traders watching the S&P 500, we, of course, had that nice rise up to 1985 back on July 3rd, and that's the highest we've actually closed. We've been higher than that intraday, but that was the highest close we've had. So if we can close above 1985 sometime this week, that'll be a brand new record high. We've had over a dozen record highs in 2014 so far. Just a quick announcement, too, for all of our traders, all of our Trigger Trade Pro subscribers. Coming up here in just a couple of weeks, we're going to begin a brand new segment, taking one of our webinars, and we're going to be doing live trading, so you'll be able to watch my screen as I trade the markets, and you'll be able to see that in real time. So that's exciting for all of you who are current Trigger Trade Pro subscribers. We'll be notifying you about that soon by email. All right, friends, well, that brings us to the end of our program. Thank you so much for choosing to allow me into your life each and every day right here on this broadcast. And as always, I leave you with this final word, this time found in the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 34, where it says, "The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself. For you were once foreigners in Egypt." Just something to think about. Remember, friends, when you want the truth about the global economy, just follow the money. We'll see you right back here again tomorrow. Until then, God bless.
All of the information contained on Follow the Money is strictly for informational and educational purposes. The views and opinions of our guests and sponsors, including Tom Cloud and Jay Peroni, are their own and do not necessarily represent the views of FTMDaily.com or Robinson Media Group, LLC. Jerry and Jennifer Robinson do hold their insurance licenses and may offer consulting on life insurance and fixed retirement income products. Jennifer Robinson is an investment advisor representative with Faith-Based Investor, LLC. Remember, never do your financial planning through podcast or radio. It's your money. Be wise. Do your due diligence and always consult a trusted financial professional